I paid for the house for 5 years and my parents gave it to my younger golden brother, so I took the house from them. My name is Calvin, and I'm 35 years old. I've always been the steady one in the family, the kind of person who remembers to send birthday cards, who shows up early and stays late to help clean up after holidays, who offers to drive everyone to the airport and never complains about it. The kind who doesn't raise his voice, doesn't start arguments, doesn't make things about himself. I thought that being dependable was the right thing to be. That if I kept showing up, kept supporting the people I loved, they'd see that as enough. That they'd see me as enough. But I've come to realize that being the reliable one, the quiet one, often just means people get used to leaning on you without even realizing they're doing it. They assume you'll be fine. That you don't need anything. That you're built to carry weight without being asked. And for a long time, I believed that too. I grew up in a modest house in northern Indiana, a brick split level with 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, and a patchy backyard that sloped toward a thin line of trees. We weren't rich, but we never went without. My dad worked as a maintenance supervisor at the local school district, and my mom did part-time office work at a dentist's office. They were decent, practical people. We ate casseroles, watched the local news, and went to church most Sundays. On paper, we looked like a postcard for average American family life. I had one younger brother, Wade. He was a bit of a firecracker growing up, funny, impulsive, kind of wild in a charming way. He got in trouble more often, but he always had this way of making my parents laugh even when he was clearly in the wrong. I'd be the one quietly doing my homework while Wade was pulling pranks or chasing neighbor kids around the block. As we got older, the pattern only deepened. I went to a local community college, paid my own way through part-time jobs and scholarships, and eventually got a decent job doing remote database work for a logistics firm. It wasn't glamorous, but I was good at it and it paid well. I worked my way up until I was making more than I ever thought I would with just an associate degree. No one really noticed, not in my family, anyway. Wade, on the other hand, went to college out of state, partied too much, and flunked out after a year and a half. He moved back in with our parents at 22 and kind of floated for a while. Then, out of the blue, he landed a job at a small construction company that my dad's bowling buddy helped him get. Somehow, that one act reset the narrative. Suddenly, Wade was working hard and turning things around. He was 28 and still living at home. He didn't pay rent. He rarely helped with groceries. But Mom and Dad saw him as the one who was present, the one who was there when it counted. Meanwhile, I had bought my own place 30 minutes away and came by every weekend to mow their lawn, change their air filters, fix their internet, things Wade somehow never had time for. I paid out of pocket when they needed a new water heater, and again when their car's transmission failed. No one ever asked me to. I just did it. Because I could. Because I thought that's what family did. When Mom slipped on ice and fractured her hip, I was the one who called the home care service and footed the bill when their insurance coverage didn't stretch far enough. When I noticed their property tax notice sitting unopened on the counter one spring, dangerously overdue, I set up recurring payments directly from my account to cover it moving forward. Quietly. Automatically. It never occurred to me that none of it really meant anything to them. Not in the way it did to me. Then last July, I came over for my dad's birthday. Wade was there, of course, shirt untucked, cracking jokes, acting like the host. We were sitting around the table eating a store-brand German chocolate cake when Dad leaned back in his chair, patted his stomach, and chuckled. "Well, Wade, this old house is gonna be your problem one day," he said. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Mom waved a hand dismissively. "He just means Wade will probably end up with the place. He's here. You're not." I blinked. "You mean, in the will?" Wade snorted. "Well, yeah, of course. Would be kind of weird for you to get it when you don't even live here anymore." I turned to my parents. They didn't deny it. Didn't explain. Just nodded, like it was common sense. Like this had been decided a long time ago. I barely remember the rest of the evening. I left before dessert was finished. Drove home in silence. Sat in my car for almost an hour in my driveway just staring through the windshield. It wasn't just about the house. It was about everything the house stood for. All the years I spent propping up a family that never once considered that maybe I was doing more than just my duty. That maybe, just maybe, my support was a choice, not a birthright. A few days later, I logged into my banking app and canceled the autopay for their property taxes. That year's payment was scheduled to go through in 3 weeks. I hovered over the cancel button for a full minute before I clicked it. No announcements. No confrontations. I just stopped. 3 weeks passed. Not a word from them. No text. No call. No question about why the tax payment hadn't gone through. Just silence. Then, on a Thursday morning while I was sipping coffee and reviewing invoices for work, I got a message from my dad. Just 6 words. We got a notice. Call me. No greeting. No punctuation. No acknowledgement that I'd been the one quietly covering their property taxes for years. Just an abrupt nudge, as if I'd forgotten to pick up the dry cleaning. I stared at the message for a full minute, then typed a reply. Sounds like a homeowner problem. He didn't respond. I expected that would be the last of it. That maybe they'd figure it out, or Wade would finally step up. But of course, that's not how it went. The next day, my mom called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail, her voice calm in a forced way that told me she was trying to sound reasonable but had no idea how to mask the frustration underneath. Hi honey, we got a letter from the township. Says the taxes weren't paid. I don't know if maybe something went wrong on your end, or maybe the bank messed up. Anyway, if you could just look into it, that'd be great. Your dad's getting pretty stressed about it. Call me back, okay? I listened to it twice. Not once did she ask whether I was still paying. Not once did she thank me for all the previous years. No recognition. No humility. Just an assumption, you'll fix this. You always do. I didn't call back. 2 days later, I got a Facebook message from Wade of all places. That alone told me he was only reaching out because he felt backed into a corner. Hey man. Mom said you're being kind of dramatic about the taxes. I told them I'll handle it from now on, so it's no big deal. Just think it's kind of not cool to ghost them like this. Ghost them? I hadn't ghosted anyone. I'd simply stopped acting like their emergency fund with a heartbeat. I stared at the message, jaw clenched. This was the same guy who used to borrow money from me in college and never repaid a dime. The same guy who skipped my birthday 3 years in a row but still expected me to Venmo him cash for his. The same guy who once told me, during a family dinner, that I was the boring one. And now I was the one being dramatic? I left the message on read. A few more days passed. Then, a new email from my dad. Subject, time to grow up. Calvin. Not sure what's going on with you lately, but this isn't how family treats each other. We've always supported you, and if you had something to say about the house or wanted to be considered for the will, you should have spoken up. We figured Wade made the most sense to inherit since he lives nearby and can maintain the place. The taxes are late. There's a penalty now, and that's because of your little stunt. Grow up and handle your responsibilities. Responsibilities. No mention of the 5 years I'd been paying those taxes without being asked. No gratitude for the in-home nurse I arranged when Mom broke her hip. No acknowledgement of the time I covered $7,600 for the furnace replacement the winter the pipes nearly froze. Just the assumption that I owed them something. That I was still, in their minds, the safe bet, the fallback plan. Something in me cracked. I opened a spreadsheet and started logging everything I'd paid for since I was 23. Not for reimbursement, just for clarity. Just so I could look at the numbers and see, in black and white, what had happened. By the time I was done, it totaled just over $64,000. I didn't send it to anyone. Didn't make a speech or post it online. But I kept it. Because seeing it there undeniable, exact, was the first time I realized I hadn't just been generous. I'd been taken advantage of. And now that I wasn't cooperating, the system they'd built around my silence was breaking down. A week later, I called the township tax office and asked to remove my name as a listed party on the payment records. The clerk sounded surprised. But you're not listed as an owner, she said. You've been paying these voluntarily? Yes, I said. Then why were you paying? I paused. Then, quietly, that's a good question. 3 days later, I got a longer text from my mom. Calvin. I don't know what your father told you, but this is still your home. You're always welcome. We just thought it made sense for Wade to take over responsibilities since he's local. That doesn't mean we don't care about you. Please don't punish us like this. Punish them? As if I were some moody teenager slamming my bedroom door. As if I hadn't spent the better part of a decade quietly keeping their lives from unraveling behind the scenes. I didn't respond. Because I knew what "you're always welcome" really meant. It meant I could come for Thanksgiving, sit at the table like a guest, and maybe even stay the night if Wade wasn't using my old room. But the attic I helped clean out, the yard I reseeded after a brutal summer drought, the tree I planted when I was 12? None of that was mine. It belonged to Wade now. And I wasn't going to bankroll someone else's inheritance while being treated like a footnote in my own family. 2 weeks passed. Then came a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was my father. His voice was tired, strained. We got another letter. This time it says there's a lien in progress. County says we're behind by too much, and if it doesn't get fixed soon, they can take action. Wade's doing what he can, but it's a lot. Can you just help us settle this? Just this once? Just this once. I took a screenshot of the voicemail transcription and saved it. Not for leverage, just as a record. A record of what it sounds like when people realize their safety net isn't there anymore. I wasn't being cruel. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was just done. A few weeks later, I received a call from my cousin, Tessa. She was a nurse in Michigan, someone who typically stayed out of family drama. Her voice was sharp when I answered. Calvin, why didn't you tell me what was going on? I blinked. What do you mean? She sighed. Aunt Sharon called my mom, sobbing. Said the house might be taken, that you were refusing to help, and that Wade was doing everything himself. But I know Wade. He can barely manage his own apartment. So I did a little digging. You paid their taxes for how long? 5 years, I said flatly. Yeah, she said. And they're acting like you're the villain. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, someone in the family saw it. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part came 2 days later when I got a message from a realtor. Subject, interested in selling the Johnson property. I blinked, reread the message, then saw the address, my childhood home. I didn't know what game they were playing. I didn't know if it was a bluff, a cash grab, or a last-ditch attempt to squeeze money from a house they no longer had the means to maintain. But I did know one thing, I wasn't going to help them clean up the mess this time. And when I saw the Zillow page go live 2 days later, I knew this was far from over. I stared at the Zillow listing like it was a betrayal in 1080p. There it was, 3 beds, 1.5 baths, charming family home in a quiet neighborhood, listed for just under $230,000. There were fresh photos, too. Wade must have taken them on his phone. The kitchen had been scrubbed, the garden trimmed, the maple tree cropped at the top of the frame like it was just background noise instead of the only thing I ever planted that survived. But what hit me wasn't just that they were selling it. It was that they didn't tell me. Not a word. Not a call. Not even a vague email. They were trying to erase me completely from the story of that house. And they almost got away with it until the realtor made the mistake of thinking I was still on the property record. I called the realtor back. I kept it polite. Hi, yes, I got your message about the Johnson property. Just curious, who authorized the sale? There was a pause. It's being sold by the legal owner, Mr. Wade Johnson. We were under the impression he inherited it. Inherited? I asked. From whom? Both parents are still alive. Silence again, then a slightly awkward chuckle. Well, I believe there was a quitclaim deed filed earlier this year. Ownership transferred to him directly. Does that sound right? It did. And it explained everything. They hadn't just planned to leave the house to Wade. They'd already given it to him months ago, probably while I was wiring them money for a plumbing issue when they were nodding along, thanking me through gritted teeth. I hung up the phone and sat with that. Not angry. Not even surprised anymore. Just hollow. They had written me off long before I ever stepped back. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I dug through emails, paperwork, bank statements, everything I had that tied me to that house over the years. I'd paid for repairs, pest control, winterization services, and those dreaded property taxes. Most of it was verbal, sent over PayPal or just quietly handled over the phone. But some of it, like the $8,000 roof payment, was on paper, receipts, confirmations. I wasn't planning to sue or claw back money. But I wanted to be ready. Because if they were going to treat me like a stranger, they weren't going to get the benefit of my silence, too. 3 days later, the house was officially pending, meaning they had an offer, meaning they were about to cash out on a house I had kept upright for half a decade. Then came the text from Wade. Yo, you might hear from Mom and Dad soon. The deal hit a snag. Something about prior lien concerns. Not sure. You didn't file anything weird, right? I laughed out loud for the first time in days. No, I hadn't filed a lien. I didn't need to. But the house had gone so long unpaid before I stopped covering the taxes that the county had placed a tax certificate on it, something I'd already warned Dad about 2 years ago. Of course, he hadn't listened, probably assumed I'd keep bailing them out forever. Then Mom called. This time, she didn't bother with niceties. Calvin, we're in trouble. We can't sell the house until this is resolved. There's a whole bunch of red tape and interest fees, and why didn't you tell us sooner? I held the phone in silence for a beat, then said, I did. You just weren't listening. She tried to pivot. We didn't mean to hurt you. This was supposed to be easier for everyone. Wade's here, he can take care of things. But he didn't, I said. I did. 4 years. She went quiet. I could hear her breathing, small and shallow. I imagined her standing in the kitchen near the cracked window I paid to replace, probably holding the phone in her left hand like always, nervously twisting the cord even though it was wireless. I don't want this to tear us apart, she said finally. Family is more important than money. I almost smiled. Then maybe you shouldn't have given him the house behind my back. A beat of silence, then she said something I wasn't expecting. We didn't think you'd care. You never said anything. You've always been so independent. And there it was, the root of everything. The curse of being the quiet one. The reliable one. The one who doesn't need help, so people stop offering it. The one who gives without asking, so people stop seeing it as a gift and start seeing it as a given. I ended the call soon after, politely, calmly, but I made one thing clear before I hung up. I'm not your safety net anymore. The sale stalled. The realtor called again, more cautious this time. Wanted to know if I'd be pursuing legal action or if I was going to cause any delays on my end. I told him no, I wasn't filing a lien. But that any buyer should do their due diligence on what unpaid services and debts might be attached to the home. That was enough to slow things down. A new inspection was ordered. The title company flagged the prior issues. And as of yesterday, the buyer walked. The house was back on the market. And Wade? He messaged me again this morning. You happy now? You ruined everything. I didn't reply. I didn't reply to Wade's message. I didn't need to. Instead, I bookmarked the listing. And I waited. 3 more weeks passed. The house sat unsold. The price dropped by $10,000. Then another $5,000. Still, no buyers. The local housing market had cooled, and the tax certificate hung over the property like a warning sign. Eventually, the county would demand full payment plus accrued fees, or they'd initiate the forfeiture process. I figured Wade and my parents were probably scrambling, hoping some desperate buyer would show up with cash and overlook the paperwork mess. But for once, I wasn't watching to rescue them. I was living again. I kept going to therapy. I started running again, something I hadn't done since my 20s. I flew to Minneapolis to visit an old college friend. I bought myself a new set of bookshelves and finally unpacked the novels I'd been carting around for years. I even learned how to make bread from scratch, because I wanted to, not because someone expected me to. And I didn't check the listing again. Not until early March, when my cousin Tessa texted me. Hey. Just a heads up, the house is gone. My stomach dropped. I clicked the link she sent. The listing had been removed. But not because it sold. I went straight to the county records. And there it was, clear as daylight. Taxes unpaid for over 2 years. Interest and penalties compounded. Forfeiture process initiated. Final warning issued. If the full amount wasn't paid within 60 days, the property would be seized and auctioned. They had officially run out of time. The next day, I got a voicemail from my dad. I didn't think I'd listen to it. But I did once, and only once. Foreclosure. Calvin. I'll admit it, we made a mistake. I thought we could handle everything, but it's too much. Wade's not, he's not ready. And we didn't treat you fairly, I know that. But this house, it's your childhood too. Please don't let it go. Help us fix it. He sounded defeated. For the first time in my life, he wasn't talking at me. He was reaching out. But I didn't feel that old familiar pull. No sense of urgency. No guilt. Just a quiet understanding, I had already done more than my share. I was done patching holes I didn't make. I figured that was the end of the road. But 2 weeks later, something happened I never saw coming. I got a call from the county treasurer's office. A woman named Denise. Mr. Calvin, she asked. Have you previously made tax payments on the property located at 287 Hawthorne Lane? Yes, I said. Several years' worth. Were you ever reimbursed for those payments? No. There was a pause. Then she said, due to recent policy updates related to private contributor protections, individuals who made significant, uncompensated contributions toward property taxes may be eligible to purchase the property directly before it goes to public auction. You've been flagged as an eligible stakeholder. I was speechless. Are you saying I can buy the house? Yes, she said. If you act within the next 2 weeks. The current redemption amount is $19,472. I had her email me the paperwork. I spent the next 3 days reading every line, researching state law, and even hired a real estate attorney to confirm everything. It was real. So I submitted the offer. Quietly. No warning. No announcement. Just the facts and the funds. A month later, the house was mine. Not through guilt. Not through inheritance. But through legal right and financial clarity. I became the sole owner of the home on April 17. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't have to. 3 days later, Wade drove by the property and saw the notice on the door. Property transferred. New ownership recorded. Vacate within 30 days. He called me 6 times. Then my mother. Then my father. I didn't answer. Instead, I mailed them a letter. Not emotional. Not cruel. Just honest. To my family. For years, I contributed to this home quietly, consistently, without being asked. When it became clear I wasn't part of your long-term plans, I stepped back. You made your decisions. I've made mine. The home is now mine legally, completely, and without apology. You have 30 days to retrieve any belongings. After that, the locks will be changed. I wish you peace. Calvin. I sent it via certified mail. I have no idea how they reacted. And honestly, I didn't care. On the 31st day, I drove over. No cars. No lights. No sound. They'd taken the essentials and left behind a few forgotten things, a half-empty tool chest in the garage, a dusty lamp in the living room, a box of old family photo albums in the hall closet. I walked through the house, every room. It felt different now. Still quiet. Still full of memories. But no longer a weight on my chest. It felt like possibility. I stepped into the backyard. The maple tree I had planted when I was 12 had grown tall and wide. Early spring leaves just beginning to unfurl. I stood beneath it for a long time, one hand on its trunk. Then I got to work. Over the next 3 months, I restored the house, my house. New floors. New paint. I hired a landscaping crew to fix the yard, and I planted a bed of wildflowers around the base of the maple tree. A quiet tribute to the boy I used to be, the one who believed love was earned by being useful. When the work was done, I didn't throw a party. I didn't post anything on social media. I just made coffee on a Saturday morning and sat on the porch, listening to the birds and watching the sun come up over the yard. A few weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. But the handwriting on it was my mother's. Inside was a photo of me, at age 12, grinning proudly next to that spindly little sapling in the backyard. On the back, in faint ink, a short message. I don't know how to say sorry. I still don't. But I remember this day. And I hope one day, you will too. I didn't cry. I just placed the photo in the drawer near the front door, where I'd see it from time to time, but not every day. Because I know now, some roots go deep. Even in rocky soil. Even if they don't grow straight. I haven't spoken to my family since. But I live in this house now. And for the first time in my life, it finally feels like home. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.